Quilty friends, welcome back. Quilters, we love our fabric. I mean, I love going to the fabric store. I love going to my local quilt shop, as you saw there, and it's our happy place. However, sometimes we really struggle to put our fabrics together when it comes time to do our quilt projects. So today I want to share with you 10 tips to hopefully help you struggle less when it comes time to matching those fabrics up for our quilt projects. My first tip is just trust your gut. Buy what you like. As long as you like the fabric and the combinations that you have picked out, and the person maybe you're giving the quilt to likes it, that's all that really matters. That leads me to number 2. And this one's a little bit of an unusual tip. And this is to get in touch with your creative side through the use of something I do every day called the morning pages. The morning pages is a form of journaling. You just journal free form every morning, and it helps break past that censor that is in our brain to help us get more in touch with our creative side. This morning page technique has come from the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. This is a very well-known book. I'll put a link to it down below in the description if you want to check it out. It is a really good book and it's very fascinating to read, and I would highly recommend checking it out. So number 3 would be to find your focus. Find that one fabric that maybe you love or that pattern that you really want to make through either a focal fabric, a mood, or a theme, or a particular colorway that you want to work with. Or get some inspiration from nature or something that you might see when you're out and about during your day. I know I'm always snapping pictures of things when I'm out and about that kind of inspire me, that I think, oh, that would be really interesting to do either as a project or as part of a quilt. So number 4 is use a mixture of different types of fabrics. You know, our prints, large, medium, and small. A blender where that looks kind of, it has some texture to it, but if you look at it, it looks like it's solid. Then you just have our simple solids, and then we have our low volume prints out there as well. Using a mixture of those will allow you to end up with a more cohesive design. So number 5 is audition your fabrics. A lot of times I'll do this when I'm in the quilt shop. I'll be pulling bolts of fabrics and just laying them on top of each other and kind of looking at how they will go together. I'll even do the same process when I'm at home. I'll be pulling the different fabrics that I have out of my stash and kind of laying them out, maybe in the pattern that it's going to end up in. Maybe I'll fold them over into the size that they want to be or going to be in that. And I will just keep working through until I find something that I like. When I'm auditioning my fabrics, I often will then go to this tip number 6, which I call the 80-20 rule. Sometimes I'll take 2 of the fabrics, 1 or 2 fabrics out of my mix that I've maybe have selected so far, and I'll pull in what a lot of people call a Zinger fabric. And sometimes that will help either get you kind of going in a creative way if you're stuck with what you're trying to pick, or it might even kind of be something that's unexpected that'll be really interesting to have in your quilt. Let me give you an example. I was at the quilt shop and I was buying fabric for this table runner. And when I was there, I was picking out, you know, the traditional flowers and everything for Easter. But I saw this really fun camping fabric. And I was like, oh, it's so cute. And what was interesting is that the greens and the purples really matched in the same tones of what I had picked. So my camping is a little bit of a zinger in my Easter table runner. Number 7 is you want to pay attention to scale of your fabrics. And especially if you have a particular pattern in mind, if you have a really big scale print and you're going to be cutting it down into smaller blocks, you're going to lose the essence of that fabric. So pay attention to that. It's not a bad thing because maybe you'll create something even more interesting. Number 8 is color and contrast. I think color is probably the one thing a lot of quilters really get stuck. And this is where I would say look to nature. If you look outside in nature, you'll find that all colors are all next to each other in any kind of random order. There is no structure to it, so there are no rules when it comes to color. As long as you like it again, and the person you're giving it to likes the colors that you've picked and the combinations, that is all that matters. Now, the one tip I can give you on if you want to double check your contrast is you can take a picture of it and then turn it into a black and white photo, and that will help you see contrast. The other guide that you can use when it comes to color is a lot of fabrics now have different dots, especially if you've picked out that focal fabric, have dots on the selvage, and you can use those different color dots to guide you in terms of other selections of fabrics that would go with it because they are a reflection of what is in that particular fabric. And if you really, really want to go there, you certainly could pick up a color wheel. I know they had them available at my local quilt shop. I'm sure other local quilt shops, in your area, or you can buy one online if that would make you feel more comfortable. But again, it's your quilt, and if the person you're giving it to likes it, that's all that really matters. Number 9 then kind of leads me to paying attention to blenders, which are those that have a little bit of texture to them, versus a solid. A solid will appear a little bit more flat when you look at it in your quilt. And this will give you a little bit of movement because there is something going on and there's something for the eye to look at, whereas a solid, there isn't. It just kind of stops the eye, which is partly why it feels a little flat when you look at it. Before I move on to my last tip, I want to extend a very special thank you to the Old Country Store in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Jan and Dean, the owners, and their staff, they're absolutely the best. Their kindness and generosity in allowing me to film this video in their shop was so nice, and I so truly appreciate all the support that they are giving my channel. This video is not sponsored by them. They simply are just extending equal kindness from one business to another, and I so appreciate it. If you are in the Lancaster County area, I do highly recommend you visiting their shop. They did also just open a retreat center for quilters that you can go and quilt together. They have wonderful classes. They offer a newsletter. I'll put links to their information down below and you can check that out. If you can't actually get to the shop, they do have an online presence as well that you can check out. So again, do check out the Old Country Store here in Lancaster County. I would really appreciate it. Now, I'm going to move on to tip number 10, but I'm also going to have a bonus tip for you. Tip number 10 is make sure you're well rested and that you're not tired and that you are giving yourself adequate time when you are picking out fabrics for your quilt. There is nothing worse than trying to be creative when you are tired and you are stressed. And this leads me to my bonus tip. If you are stuck, you want to get a different perspective, find that trusted quilty friend or friend that you can bounce your ideas off of. My girlfriend and I, she's also a quilter, we're always bouncing ideas off of each other, looking for different perspectives, or if we're stuck, to try and look at things maybe in a different way. If you don't have a resource like that, you can always turn to your local quilt shop. They usually have wonderful resources there. Just make sure when you do go that you take your focus piece with you, whatever that may be, your theme, your mood, your fabric, or your pattern, so that they have a jumping off point to help you. Now, if you are ready for some more tips, you could check out my 7 mistakes to avoid when making your quilt next. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. If you have any questions about fabrics or colors or anything like that, do put them down in the comments. I would be more than happy to answer them for you. So for now, I wish you all well, and most of all, be quilty. So quilting is a journey, and so wow, there's like birds just coming down out of the sky. They're like, bird, bird, bird. I wish you could see where these birds come from. Crazy things happen when you're shooting your videos. Okay.
Make you smile, hold your hand in my hand, looking at the sunset, man, you're looking good tonight. I wanna kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing, making me feel